This stone sword had been sitting in the general store for 20 years, unnoticed. Everyone believed it to be a useless piece of junk. Yet, I chose to spend all my savings to buy it. People around me mocked me, calling me a fool with no sense. This broken sword would shatter at a touch, let alone be used to fight monsters. However, I just smirked at their ridicule. Because I had awakened the mythical talent, Universal Ascension. It could upgrade the quality of any item infinitely, without limit. If I got lucky, I could even turn a silver tier item into a mythical tier 1. In my past life, I was one of the top 10 powerhouses in Dragon Country, the god of slaughter. But I was betrayed by my girlfriend Lu Rian and my closest friend. They conspired with other strong warriors to set a trap and gravely injure me. All for the supreme artifact in my possession, the Ring of Reversal. It was a trophy I obtained by single-handedly defeating the strongest mythical beast in the Death Cavern. It was said to reverse rules and even reshape one's body. At the brink of death, regret and hatred surged endlessly in my heart. If I were to live again, I swore to tear them apart. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of awakening, at the age of 18. On my finger was a pitch-black ring. The ancient divine engravings on it had dimmed. I couldn't believe the artifact had truly reversed the flow of time, suppressing the flood of thoughts in my mind. Living again, I was determined to rewrite every regret. I would kill Zhang Tang and Lu Rian to exact my vengeance. The next moment, a roulette appeared in my mind. It was inscribed with countless tiny compartments. With a thought, I commanded it to spin. The pointer spun rapidly and landed on a golden slot. Seeing this scene, I was utterly shocked. This mythical talent could ascend items at will. It was unbelievably powerful. I slowly closed my eyes. A data panel appeared in my mind. Looking at the panel, it felt like a thunderclap exploded in my brain. My previously calm heart surged like a tidal wave. Some of my skills had returned with my rebirth. At this moment, a crisp, melodious voice sounded behind me. "Hey, Su Ming, what kind of profession do you think you'll awaken?" I turned around and froze for a moment. A slender girl with exquisite features stood behind me. She smiled softly, tilting her head slightly. Just as I remembered her, her eyes sparkling. It was my deskmate, Ji Yao. My gaze softened instantly. The scene from my final moments in the past life was still vivid. Facing the overwhelming deadly attacks, only Ji Yao stood in front of me, risking her life to shield me. At that moment, I realized she had always loved me from the very beginning. She was even willing to sacrifice her life for me without regret. Seeing her again now, a whirlwind of emotions surged in my heart. There were so many things I wanted to say, but I didn't know where to start. Noticing my intense gaze, Ji Yao blushed slightly. "Why are you staring at me like that?" She had admired me for a long time and hinted at it many times. But I had always ignored her feelings. Everyone knew I only had eyes for Lu Rian, the school belle. HMPH, you blockhead. Don't tell me you just now realized how pretty I am. Well, too late. She put her hands on her hips and teased with a radiant smile. In the sunlight, her face seemed to glow. But what she didn't expect was, in the next moment, I made a bold move. I stepped forward and gave her a firm hug. Ji Yao froze, standing there in shock. Her delicate body trembled, her cheeks flushed, and she almost lost her balance. What are you doing all of a sudden?" I let go gently, a faint smile playing on my lips. "My awakening will be terrifying." With that, I turned away. Despite the countless words I wanted to say, in the end, I kept them to myself. Ji Yao's face was burning as she lowered her head slightly. She stole glances at my back, still dazed and unable to recover. Next, Zhang Tang. Hidden combat profession, Warhammer warrior. Innate attribute level, 8 stars. The awakening teacher's words caused an uproar among the crowd. A genius with 8 stars so soon in our school this year? Not just the students, even the leaders on the podium were pleasantly surprised. Fantastic, what a great start to the year. I looked at Zhang Tang on the high platform with a heavy gaze. His awakening was the same as in my past life. Coupled with the immense resources of his Zhang family, one of the strongest in Dragon Country. He had been elevated to an extremely high level. Of course, part of that was due to my help in the past. In this life, I must crush him at the very beginning to exact my revenge. Soon, it was Ji Yao's turn. She quickly ran up to the platform and placed her hand on the awakening monument. A wisp of pale gray mist emerged. Slowly, it condensed into an ancient scythe. It was engraved with numerous ancient magical runes. Hidden combat profession, Necromancer. Innate attribute level, 7 stars. Upon seeing this, the crowd erupted in astonishment once again. No one expected this delicate-looking girl to awaken such a dark and powerful profession. Next, it was my turn to step onto the stage. I walked up to the monument, took a deep breath, and placed my hand on it. The next moment, celestial phenomena began to stir. Unlike anything before, a terrifying aura erupted instantly. All the teachers and students were stunned. The dozen or so school leaders trembled in amazement. Could this be the emergence of a genius with more than 9 stars? Even I was filled with surprise. Wasn't my initial profession supposed to be assassin? This celestial phenomenon wasn't something an ordinary assassin could trigger. However, the system immediately answered my question. This system has bound you to a brand new profession. The terrifying aura in the heavens condensed and compressed. Almost took the form of a long sword. The 3-foot blade caused spatial distortions with its presence. The divine sword hummed endlessly in the air. Awakening successful. Mythical profession. Sword god. I felt slightly dizzy. This was a level higher than the legendary tier, a mythical tier? How could someone awaken directly to a mythical profession? I might be the first in history. I quickly activated the passive skill, Full Concealment. I disguised the sword god profession as a similar one, Swordmaster. This skill was the ultimate disguise ability of the god of slaughter. Could even fool the monument. I absolutely could not expose my sword god profession. Otherwise, trouble would follow relentlessly. I understood well the principle of treasuring a jade ring invites envy. Soon, the celestial phenomenon subsided. Finally, it condensed into a tangible long sword. Looking at the ethereal, radiant sword in the sky, the entire school was deathly silent. After a long pause, the awakening teacher announced the results with difficulty. Su Ming, innate attribute level, 10 stars. As the words fell, the crowd erupted like an explosion. Innate attribute, 10 stars? What kind of monstrous genius is this? I thought Zhang Tang's 8-star Warhammer warrior was terrifying enough. But now, a 10-star prodigy appears. The teacher then continued to announce my profession. Hidden profession, Swordmaster. The entire room fell silent for a moment. Then, after a pause, it erupted again. Damn, I thought it was just a swordsman. Man, this is insane. How is it this profession? Thank goodness, I was almost dying of jealousy. Swordmaster balances out his max 10-star attributes. Rare, sure, but it's really weak in the beginning. The crowd murmured in mixed tones. Swordmaster and swordsman were quite similar. But there were significant differences between the two. Swordsman was a melee profession. Swordmaster, on the other hand, could fight at both range and melee. It was a hybrid physical and magical combat profession. However, its biggest weakness was its frailty early on. Being a hybrid required more attribute points than other professions. Thus, a swordmaster's combat strength in the early stages was far weaker than a swordsman's. But hearing this result, I remained indifferent. After all, exposing the sword god profession would bring both fortune and disaster. That was not what I wanted. Meanwhile, the leaders on the podium were in an uproar. My god, a hidden profession combined with innate 10-star attributes. In the entire Xuanyu city. It's rare to see such a genius even in decades. Although a swordmaster is weak in the early stages, it becomes very powerful later on. However, it requires a vast amount of resources for perfect growth. Director Zheng, head to the school warehouse and fetch a fortified essence pill. I will present it to this student as a reward. The principal waved his hand solemnly. As I stepped down from the stage, I noticed Zhang Tang and Lu Ruyan staring at me in shock. Zhang Tang clenched his fists, his expression dark. As the eldest son of the Zhang family, he believed he should overshadow everyone else. But I had stolen the spotlight from him. He slightly lowered his head and whispered something into Lu Ruyan's ear. Lu Ruyan's face turned to shock upon hearing him. What? Young Master Zhang, are you sure about this? Don't worry, you won't have to endure for long. Few years at most. Once we've gained enough benefits from him, we'll find an opportunity to deal with him in a dungeon. Lu Ruyan nodded slightly. A meaningful smile appeared on her face. I observed all of this from a distance. Although I couldn't hear their conversation, I could guess most of it. Noticing my cold gaze towards them, they thought I was greeting them. Zhang Tang smiled and waved casually, looking harmless. Lu Ruyan flicked her hair flirtatiously and winked at me. However, deep down, she was still disdainful. HMPH, a pauper is still a pauper. Even with max 10-star attributes, he still has to grovel and look my way. Such a pathetic man. But having lived 2 lives, I saw through her thoughts easily. No matter how proud she was, she wouldn't survive tonight. I maintained my composure and calmly returned to my class lineup. All my classmates immediately gathered around me. Although Swordmaster wasn't as strong as other professions, the allure of max attributes was undeniable. Many came forward to curry favor with me. Some even tried to reconnect through old friendships. I merely smiled faintly in response. You can know someone's face, but not their heart. In this life, I would not easily trust anyone. Ji Yao stood quietly in the crowd, watching me from afar. She smiled softly without any hint of flattery. She liked Su Ming for who he was, not for any additional value he brought. The awakening ceremony continued. The remaining students mostly had ordinary talents, except for one who caught my attention. It was Yan Zi from Class 4, Year 3. He awakened the 9-star hidden profession, Demon Hunter Ranger. This naturally caused quite a stir. But unfortunately, my 10 stars came first. Even his 9 stars couldn't overshadow the commotion I caused. I looked thoughtfully at this 9-star talent student. Because in my past life, Yan Zi had DE'd in the beginner dungeon. After the awakening ceremony, I returned to my dormitory. I opened my personal data panel. Su Ming, Level 1, Profession, Sword God, Mythical Tier, Worlds Only. Talents, Universal Ascension, Primal Sword Body. Skills, God Slaying Strike, Full Concealment, Phantom Step, Eye of Insight. I noticed a new talent had appeared in my data. Primal Sword Body. After examining this talent, I took a sharp intake of breath. Allows mastery of all sword type skills without restrictions. Increases the power of all sword skills by 300%. Increases the proficiency gain rate of all sword skills by 300%. The effects grow stronger with higher cultivation levels. Reading these effects, I was left speechless. Never mind anything else. Just the tripled sword power alone meant that even with the most basic iron sword, I could confidently solo monsters below level 3. And this was without using any sword techniques. Not to mention, I also had my skills from my past life. So essentially, I was half a dual profession wielder. If I couldn't defeat an enemy with a sword, then, well, I'd just pull out a dagger. Tomorrow morning, the beginner dungeon would appear. Everyone who had just awakened would be forcibly drawn into it. In my past life, I avoided the hidden boss. It was just too dangerous. But this time, I had to give it a try. At this stage, I needed to gather as many resources as possible. Taking some risks would be worth it. As for Ji Yao, there was no need to worry. Based on my past life, she safely completed the dungeon with another team, unscathed. Now, it was time to think about revenge. A cold smile formed on my lips as I glanced at the message Lu Rian had sent me. Su Ming, haven't you always liked me? I've changed my mind. I smiled faintly at this. It was exactly the same as my past life. It was these two messages that confirmed my relationship with Lu Rian that night. I immediately replied to her. Meet me tonight on the rooftop of the teaching building. After replying, I headed out of the school. Following my memories, I arrived at a weapon shop. According to my past experience, this shop had a stone longsword. If you smashed the outer stone, it would reveal a real sword inside. It was a silver quality longsword weapon, but it was sold at an incredibly low price. Because of its rough exterior, no one recognized its value. I had to take this chance to buy it at the lowest price. My presence caused quite a stir among the students. They whispered and talked about me, but I ignored them and walked straight to the counter. At that moment, a young woman in her 20s stepped out from the crowd of students and blocked my path. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and black stockings, exuding elegance, wealth, and sophistication. Sorry, I mean no harm, she said. I'm Zhang Lan, Vice Chairwoman of the Jiang'an Corporation. Today, Jiang'an Corporation will cover all your weapon purchases here. Her words caused the surrounding students to gasp in shock. This was generosity on an unprecedented scale. Weapon shops were among the most expensive places in the world. Ordinary families could never afford to splurge here. Looking at her enticing smile, my expression remained calm. Oh, fully covered expenses? Miss Zhang Lan, may I ask what I need to offer in return? Hearing my calm response, she seemed slightly surprised. She had already learned that I was a poor orphan, without parental support, likely struggling to afford a weapon here. Yet, she hadn't expected me to remain unmoved by such temptation. It seems Su Ming is not only exceptionally gifted but also incredibly wise. You're right, I do have a request for you. Zhang Lan smiled faintly and gestured to the crowd. A slender girl in a green dress stepped forward. This is my younger sister, Zhang Yunqing. If you team up with her and protect her through the beginner dungeon challenge, I'll fund the purchase of a weapon for you, how about it? Her confident smile carried an air of authority. Hearing this, I remained unfazed. I sized up Zhang Yunqing in front of me. Beneath her slightly proud demeanor was subtle arrogance. Although her talent was slightly inferior to mine, she had wealth. I was long accustomed to such situations. Only newly awakened job holders could enter the beginner dungeon. Family experts and bodyguards couldn't follow. This meant the Zhang family's second daughter would be venturing alone into a dangerous area without protection. Under such circumstances, she naturally needed a strong protector. And I was the perfect candidate. Thinking this, I smiled and stroked my chin, putting on an innocent and harmless expression. Alright, I want the Frost Dragon Chill Sword. Hearing this, Zhang Lan's expression wavered. She hadn't expected me to make such an outrageous request. Diamond tier weapon Frost Dragon Chill Sword was the shop's prized treasure. It was worth tens of millions of Descension coins. Even she couldn't immediately afford it. The surrounding students also looked on in astonishment. Is Su Ming a bit too shameless? Sure, he's a max attribute rookie. Let's not forget his profession is the weak early game swordmaster. That's a diamond tier weapon. He might not even be able to equip it. Zhang Lan looked slightly embarrassed. My bold demand had put her in an awkward position. Her eyes narrowed as her expression turned serious. Are you serious? I nodded with a clear gaze. Feigning innocence, I replied. I'm serious. Is there a problem, miss? My demeanor made Zhang Lan grit her teeth in frustration. But she couldn't let it show. For a businessperson, weighing pros and cons was paramount. Her family might be wealthy, but they couldn't spend recklessly. In the end, she sighed softly. Sorry, Su Ming. Can you choose another weapon? The Frost Dragon Chill Sword is simply too expensive. I think your current combat value doesn't justify such an investment. If you pick a silver quality weapon, I'd be more than happy to pay for it. Hearing this, I shook my head, my tone resolute. Then forget it. I only want this sword, no other options. Zhang Lan frowned slightly, her eyes flashing with displeasure. Are you sure? However, my expression remained calm and unchanged. I'm sure. Her gaze turned cold, and she shook her head slightly. All right then, Yunxing, let's go. Zhang Yunxing glanced at me with a slightly focused gaze. It was the first time she'd seen her sister lose ground in a negotiation. This made her feel that this classmate was not only incredibly talented, but also unusually shrewd. After they left, I exhaled deeply. I had never intended to accept the deal, but if I rejected it too harshly, she might persistently pursue it. So I demanded the Frost Dragon Chill Sword to push her away. Plus, I planned to head to the most dangerous area to solo the hidden boss. If I agreed to the deal and had to protect Zhang Yunxing, how could I explore such perilous areas? I navigated through the crowd and approached the counter. Turning to a saleswoman, I said, "Bring down that stone sword." The saleswoman hesitated at my request. Following my gesture, she looked upward. Hanging in a glass case on the wall was a gray stone sword. Its surface was rough and ugly, vaguely resembling the shape of a longsword. It was practically a weapon embryo. Wouldn't hurt anyone, let alone kill them. The saleswoman was baffled. Her lips parted slightly as she asked, "Are you sure about this weapon?" Seeing me nod, she sighed in resignation. She tapped a few buttons on the screen in front of her and lowered the display case, placing the stone sword before me. I gripped the stone sword, weighing it. A faint golden glimmer flashed in my eyes. Using the Eye of Insight, I scanned the sword's details instantly. Weapon: Stone Embryo, Silver. A reward from an F-tier dungeon boss. Contains a silver quality sword within. In my past life, I witnessed a student buying this sword. He accidentally broke the stone encasing it in the beginner dungeon. That's when its true form was revealed. That's how I learned the truth about this sword. Not bad. What's the price? I asked while holding the stone sword. Dear student, per our shop owner's policy, Awakening Day buyers get discounts based on their awakening level. Professionals with attributes over 5 stars get a 50% discount. This stone sword originally costs 1,000 dissension coins. With the discount, the price is 500 dissension coins. Hearing this, I nodded slightly. The price was still within my budget. After all, other silver quality weapons typically cost over 10,000. If the stone casing was broken, its value would multiply tenfold. Currently, my total savings was exactly 500. After completing the transaction, the sword became mine. Thank you for your purchase. Saleswoman bowed slightly, her smile thin and forced. The students watching were utterly shocked. Has Su Ming gone crazy? This sword is cheap, but can it kill monsters? Buying a stone sword like this is a dath wish. However, a bespectacled male student seemed thoughtful. These stone weapons often appear in dungeons. Most are garbage that break easily. But there's a slim chance of finding a sealed weapon inside. If so, the weapon inside could be valuable. Is he betting on that chance? His comment didn't calm the crowd. Instead, it fueled their mockery. My father's a blacksmith. I know how low the odds are. I'd bet all the stone weapons in this shop wouldn't yield a single good one. Spending 500 dissension coins on such a slim chance is just plain stupid. I can only call him an idiot. Listening to the chatter around me, I stopped walking. A faint smile curled on my lips as I said, "Anyone want to make a bet? If I break this sword and reveal a great weapon, you'll give me 3,000 dissension coins. If not, I'll give you 5,000 dissension coins. Who's in?" My voice instantly spread throughout the shop. Even the saleswoman thought I had lost my mind. The odds of finding a sealed weapon were 1 in 1,000, if not less. Even the shop owner and experienced blacksmiths hadn't seen anything special about this stone sword. Yet I dared to bet on such slim odds? To them, it seemed like I was just giving away money. Many students rushed forward, eager to join the bet. In the end, a burly male student acted the fastest. He stepped in front of me with an excited grin, as if he'd already won the jackpot. I'll bet with you. Name: Yang Ding. Level: 1. Profession: Tank Warrior. Skill: Power Slash. This guy was a familiar face. At school, he acted extremely arrogant, often bullying poor students. In my past life, he even tricked me once in the beginner dungeon. So, I had no guilt about tricking him now. Alright, let's sign the betting contract. I willed a panel to appear before us. It displayed the terms of the bet. Once signed, neither party could back out. If I won, I'd only get 3,000. If I lost, I'd owe 5,000. The odds of finding a sealed weapon were already extremely low. By all appearances, this was an unfair bet against me. The watching students were stunned by the scene. Why is he so serious, even using a contract? If he loses, the interest will skyrocket if he can't pay. With a contract in place, no one can renege. Yang Ding hesitated as he read the terms. But soon, he made up his mind. The odds are in my favor, how can I call myself a man if I don't bet? Besides, 3,000 ascension coins wasn't much for his family background. This bet was also a way for him to dampen my momentum. Without hesitation, he signed his name on the contract. Yang Ding crossed his arms and gave a cold sneer. Go ahead, smash your rock. But I doubt a pauper like you can cough up 5,000 coins if you lose. He hadn't finished his taunt when he froze in place. His smug expression turned into one of utter shock. In that instant, I had already smashed the stone casing decisively. A crisp sound reverberated through the entire shop. Everyone froze in place, the room falling silent. The earlier noise turned into complete stillness. The stone fragments fell away, revealing a simple black steel sword. Its 3-foot blade bore faint crimson patterns. That seemed to flow like blood. Black iron crimson sword, silver, low. Special affix. Blood Drinker. Absorbs blood from monsters to heal injuries. Using the Eye of Insight, I scanned the sword's details and was very pleased. It could heal me when attacking monsters. It was like having a mobile healer. The spectators were all stunned, as if struck by lightning. After long silence, a student stammered in disbelief. He actually revealed a sealed weapon. Judging by its appearance, it's not bronze quality. It's at least silver tier. Yang Ding's face turned pale when he saw the sword. He instinctively stepped back, unable to believe it. Impossible. He struggled to utter those 2 words. What he thought would be his moment of glory had completely backfired on him. I calmly extended my hand toward him, as if I had anticipated all of this. Yang Ding, pay up. He gritted his teeth and said reluctantly. Consider yourself lucky. He transferred 3,000 coins from his account to mine. He had no choice. This was the rule of the world. The contract was binding, and not even the heavens could break it. If he delayed payment, every second would accumulate massive interest, so he could only pay now. I left the weapon shop at a leisurely pace. From start to finish, my expression remained calm. Yang Ding's face alternated between green and white, almost fuming with anger. His voice trembled as he said grimly, Su Ming, I'll remember this. Back in my private dormitory, I placed the sword in front of me and activated my Universal Ascension talent. A divine golden radiance began to glow. Suddenly, the longsword in front of me transformed. Dark steel blood sword, silver, high. Blood Drinker. Absorbs blood from monsters to heal injuries. Killing a monster temporarily increases all attributes by 5 for 30 seconds. Seeing this, I was utterly amazed. This talent truly is extraordinary. It upgraded the sword from silver low to silver high, and even added a special effect, Blood Surge. Moreover, after ascension, the sword's material became heavier and sharper. I glanced at the sky outside. It was already night. This meant it was time to meet Lu Rian. I left the dormitory alone, walking slowly. Moments later, I stood on the rooftop terrace, with a simple dagger in my pocket. Using God-Slaying Strike, the dagger's power is maximized. If I used a sword, the power would be significantly reduced. I will use my strongest move to kill Lu Rian.